waivers were offered to be extended by the end of September to, ready for this, until 2014. Now, it's kind of interesting in a challenging campaign or candidate time style that those same 18 companies or 1,800 groups and unions were offered to extend their waiver status until 2014. What do you think is going to happen when a certain individual gets reelected? Do you think those waivers will be extended again?
No.
So the question becomes is that it has to come to an end where favoritism and political connections, whether it be Republican or Democrat, this bill or this healthcare law has nothing to do with healthcare. It has all to do with controlling you and controlling your doctor. And then those groups that have enough lobbying capability, some of those very groups that are paying people to go down to protest or occupy certain cities are actually getting waivers. In fact, some of you that are AARP members, AARP has a waiver for participating in this. So the point is, it's not about health care. It's about freedom. That's all it is. And my argument to anybody that gets in your face and you want to talk to them about, you really should consider voting on issue 3. It's really to preserve our freedom to choose. Because remember, what you were told by Speaker Pelosi is that you'll find out what's in the bill or law after we pass it. And you're going to get health care, whether we have to climb over the wall, catapult over the wall, dig underneath the wall, but we're going to get health care. And there was a reason, because there were paybacks that they were going to get for health care. The individuals that wrote that health care law wrote it to favor themselves. Now let me tell you what's going on that you're not hearing about. Right now, the Medicare Payment Advisory Board is being formed. This is all part of this law, PPACA, the Patient Protective and Accountable Care Act. Sounds cozy, but it's definitely not there to protect you. And of those people that are going to be on the Medicare Payment Advisory Board, they're all presidentially appointed. And they will decide how your doctors get paid. And if you think it's bad now with Medicare, I'm sorry. I'm on call. If you think it's bad now with Medicare, and you may not be able to get some of the things you want, wait to 2014. And so, the Payment Advisory Board's purpose is to decide on how initially doctors will get paid, and then eventually it'll be how hospitals will get paid. Right now, if your doctor is not part of the electronic prescribing requirements that we all will have to go to, if we're not currently prescribing a certain amount of our medications electronically, we get a 1% pay cut in our Medicare straight across next year. If by next year we're not prescribing a certain amount electronically, we'll get another % cut from our Medicare reimbursement across the board for the entire year. Now, why do you think the government wants us to prescribe electronically, and why do you think they want us to go electronically? Is it for your safety? And then can anybody think why? And right, to get into your records. Has anybody seen the recent article in the paper about the several 100,000 TRICARE members, military members, that their medical records were just lost and breached? Okay? That's going to be you. And you know what they got? I think they got 30 or 90 days free fraud protection. They didn't get an apology. Their medical records were breached. And these are the military members. That's going to be us. See, because If we don't go electronic medical records by, I believe it's 2013 or 2014, again, we'll be penalized. So what it is right now there's a $44,000 incentive for us to instill the electronic medical record per physician in the office. And each year you don't do that, they keep taking away that incentive. And there's an incentive because they're inside. Once you go electronic medical record, guess who's in the room with me and you? The government. If you're Medicare or Medicaid, the government. Okay, no, right now they say, now remember, you have to read between the lines. Oh, this is for patient safety. This is so we don't. Okay, I talked to a pharmacy friend of mine, and you know what he said? I said, hey, all the electronic prescriptions that I send you, and that all the other doctors are sending you, is that reducing medical errors? No. Now I can just read them. Get it? Because doctors' handwritings are so bad, So now the computers are making errors. The people that are programming these programs don't have the medical knowledge. And so they're writing programs for people to use, physicians and nurses, that don't have the medical background. So I talked to a nurse yesterday from one of the ERs, and she's like, I just can't put in what I need to say. It won't let me. It's creating backups right now in Upper Valley in the hours because they've just instilled Epic, and it's creating huge backups in the emergency department. In some hospitals, when I worked for Wayne Hospital, the electronic medical record actually shut the emergency department down for a certain amount of hours. Now, I'm not advocating against it, but I'm just saying that there's a purpose because it's a system and a way of collecting data upon you and upon me. And what's going to happen eventually is, if I prescribe you a certain test, here's something I want you to know. Did anybody know what came out last Thursday from the United States Preventative Service Task Force? Anybody know the recommendation they came out with? Yeah? What did it say, Mary Ellen and Rachel, about the PSA test?
It wasn't a good diagnostic tool.
It was no longer necessary. Let me read you a statement from a urologist, and there's a group, and I'd recommend you consider looking it up. It's called Doctors for Patient Care. And you can be a community member, you can be a physician member. And it reads as this. On Thursday, the U.S. Preventative Service Task Force issued their recommendation that routine PSA screening for men looking for prostate cancer was no longer indicated. So said the chairman of the group, pediatrician Virginia Moyer of Baylor School of Medicine. There was no urologist on this committee, and the universally recognized experts of this committee are recommending the treatment for prostate cancer. These are the people that are going to tell us in the future what tests I can and cannot do. We have a pediatrician telling me and urologists that PSAs are no longer needed.
Did they come out with something about mammography too?
Let me read on. This is the same body that issued the controversial recommendation to stop routine mammography. Do you think that's coincidental? It's unlikely that the task force took into account that the years that the PSA screening test has been routinely done, that the mortality rate from prostate cancer has dropped dramatically. Over 32,000 men die because of prostate cancer every year. It is the second most common cancer in men, with a particular predilection and predominance for African Americans. You think our president would stand up for that? It's important also to note that the death rate from prostate cancer in England, where routine screening is not performed in order to save money, is dramatically higher than that in the United States. It can only be concluded that this task force is doing the bidding of the federal government and under the guise of science, like that of green science, to justify the intent of covertly rationing care. This is an attempt to put bureaucrats between patients and doctors, and it's precisely why the groups like the Preventative Task Force needs to be exposed for what it is marginalizing. Patients make the best decisions about their care along with good counsel from their own personal doctors. In this case, not from a pediatrician who never orders a prostate PSA test. So, this is the taste you need to tell your neighbors of the future. And when the federal government can mandate you buy a product, they're really trying to cattle you into something that you have no idea what your choices are. What are you going to get for that? We're not even sure specifically what you're going to get for what you're going to pay. So the important part is you have no idea what's coming. Come 2014, if it stays law, talking to any liberal you may talk to at any point that's 24 million to 36 million people will suddenly have health care insurance. Now, I don't know if you've been to an emergency department recently, but can you imagine the waits in the emergency department when 24 million more people get health care? Can you imagine the wait for the subspecialist when 24 million people get a health care card? My question is, if they're going to start eliminating PSA tests, which are very little cost, what about the big ticket items? So everybody's going to have an insurance card. You're just not going to have anything to spend it on. Oh, you can come see me and I'll just give you your Percocet and you can sit in the corner instead of getting your hip replaced. I think he said that. So the important part is, issue 3 is about the freedom to choose. It's about everybody's personal waiver to choose whether they want to have Obamacare or not. If you want to have it, pick it. But if you don't want to have it, you shouldn't be mandated to purchase something you know nothing about. And from a legal standpoint, because they love to refer back to the Commerce Clause, can you imagine the amount of times they're going to refer back to the PPACA and the ability that this was held up as we were able to mandate you purchase health care. Now guess what? You're going to have to be mandated to buy a smart meter for your house. We just need to know how much energy is being used in the neighborhoods, and so you're going to have to buy this certain type of meter for your house. You're going to have to buy a heat pump and replace your air conditioner. You're going to have to buy a tankless water heater. It's mandated. So when you sell your house, you're going to have to replace that. So we really don't want them to open this door to mandates, and that's why it's so critical for us to vote yes on issue 3. And lastly, it's important for all of you to get involved. As you see, we were very involved down at Courthouse Square, and we got little press coverage. But they can subjugate us, and they can push us underneath the tables. But the most important recommendation that I get is not by putting an ad in a paper. That's not how I get a patient. You know, the best reference I get is a referral from another patient that's happy. So, do you think a television commercial is going to convince somebody to vote against it? Or your neighbor that says, you know what, I just listened to a talk, and you're welcome to come back here and bring him back here November 1st when we have another meeting on this, and I and a couple other people will speak on issue 3 and issue 2, and we'll answer specifically people's questions in regards to that. And I invite you to bring them back. But when you leave tonight, I would invite you to inform them what I've told you, because it's all facts. And I would invite you to take some signs out there. They're free for the taking on both issue 2 and 3, some of the signs have. And if you don't feel comfortable supporting issue 2, there's signs just in regards of issue 3. We also have some door knockers and a limited supply out there right now. And they basically, if you want to put on a neighbor's door, it basically just spells out the key points of issue 2 and why it's important to vote yes. And on the back, issue 3, all in one. You just put that on their door. As long as you don't put that in your mailbox, it's not illegal. And you might want to check a particular neighborhood. I think there's one neighborhood, I'm not sure if it's Inglewood or union, I think you're not allowed to do that. But again, please take some yard signs out there, a couple, 2 or 3 for yourself and a couple for a neighbor. We will have several more coming in. I have another shipment coming in later this week, and if you're interested, I believe what I'm probably going to do is just show up here around 1 o'clock, the Club 55's parking lot, and I will have additional yard signs on issue 2 and 3. Does anybody have any questions? We're going to have another meeting here on November 1st in regards to issue 2 and 3. So if there's more people you'd like educated, we would like to educate as many as people as possible. Can I answer any questions in regards to issue 3? If not, we can close, and we appreciate you coming.
I'd like to know, when we hang the door knockers on, do we have to talk to the people?
No, here's a nice thing. If you don't feel...
Afraid to talk to people. Can you just...
I'm from our standpoint, I think if you hang these door knockers on there, you've done a great deal of service.
Thank you.
And if you don't feel comfortable with talking, there's nothing worse than looking like you don't know what you don't know. So I would just put the door knocker on there. If they have any questions, just say, if you're not interested, you can simply throw it away. But would you please consider it? So you don't have to. We did this in Columbus. We simply just put the door knocker on and walked around. My daughters and we did it Saturday as well in our neighborhood. And if you even want, there's some out there, but I'll have some more Saturday as well, door hangers, and they're kind of fun to do.
I'm kind of coordinating